I'm Oculus, the alien next door, purveyor of esoteric lore, and on this channel we discuss everything out of this world. How to mold and bend and shapeshift whatever motherfucker you want to whatever the fuck you wish. We are already fucking doing this all the motherfucking time. In a humanoid vessel are constantly projecting our assumptions onto others, and then the other is always displaying that back to us. So you have a boss, and before you got hired to the company, you heard that that boss was either easygoing, laid back, or you heard they were a tyrant, or they were very strict, or whatever you heard about this person. You heard something about them, and then now you, depending on where your level of mentality was at when you heard that, you either decided to project what you heard about this particular boss onto them, or you decided to view this boss as neutral and not take what anyone else said. Okay, so however which way you went, if you thought the boss was super easygoing or you thought the boss was a tyrant, you basically came into them expressing that to you, that which you already expected them to give to you, because the universe is a mirror. Everyone is a mirror. Yes, when they say the other person is you, treat everyone as if they are God in drag. I believe Ram Dass says that. All these fucking fabulous quotes you can think of. It is simply stating that since it's your universe, other individuals, for lack of better term, are going to behave like puppets, and you are the puppet master. Now, unknowingly, you can take on what someone else's perspective of another individual is, such as the tyrant boss or the laid-back boss. You could begin to absorb that concept into yourself. Then now that boss is going to present themselves as either someone who is very easygoing or someone who is a tyrant. If you had just remained neutral when you heard about said boss, and you're like, you know what, I don't know what this person's deal is, I'm just going to kind of give them the benefit of a doubt, I'm going to go into it neutrally. You go into it neutral, and you can either intuitively sense how they are behaving around you, or what you can do if you go into it as neutral is you intend that no matter what you heard about this boss or whatever particular person, you are going to project onto them that which you want them to be. So you are going to intentionally mold and shapeshift an individual in front of your very eyes. There are different levels, as I said. Wherever you are at, you might see this as an everyone is you pushed out type of deal. You might see it as like a more of a sorcery, witchcraft type of deal, where you're like molding and bending and shape-shifting someone. And if you're doing that, and if you're performing rituals and you're doing candle magic and all of that, the magic is coming from you anyway. We all know that. All of it is basically the same idea, because you are the one that is projecting whatever you're projecting onto any individual, boss, family member, romantic partner, friend, whoever. They are going to return to you back what you expect, what you project to see from them. Ideally, one would want to take this for all situations. Now, we have this situation about someone you heard about, such as the boss. We have a situation of, let's say, a friend of a friend, where you kind of have heard of this person, and maybe you've heard someone else's opinion of this person, and that's type A. Now, type B is someone that you just randomly encounter. Let's say you're at the grocery store, and you're checking out, and you're kind of in a rush. You're like, you know what, this checkout person is going to check me out really fucking fast, right? So even this random encounter, you are still in a way projecting onto that individual. Even though you might never see this motherfucker again, you're still projecting onto them that which you want, and they as the puppet and you as the master, you're going to have that reflected back to you. So if you're in a rush and you're like, oh my god, this store employee is checking everyone out so slowly, you essentially labeled them as someone slow. So now they're gonna have your checkout be slower than had you labeled them and say, oh, this individual's checking out motherfuckers fast. So then that would be what is returned to you. Okay? And it's very possible to do this in a split second. In every moment, you can mold and bend and shapeshift another individual. Keep in mind that whoever else is around you, they're also doing this. A lot of them are doing this unknowingly, and that's why they get involved in shitty situations, but that's a whole other topic. But basically, everyone is doing this. So you as as someone else's puppet to someone else, they are actually doing that to you. So you are inadvertently expressing back to that individual that which they are projecting onto you. Of course, we know that this is not technical puppet and master things. We all do have the sentience and conscious to create our own experience. So essentially, you are no one's puppet and everyone is your puppet. And essentially, whoever would view you as a puppet, they would have everyone around them as a puppet, and they would be the one in control because every individual is having the same experience. Keep in mind, energy, what's that quote? I think by Einstein, he says, energy cannot be created or destroyed, just transferred or shapeshifted. Some shit, right? Shapeshift. I don't know, whatever. We're going to use that, okay? So energy can be shapeshifted. So whatever energy you have about an individual, whatever label you want to give them, you are a lot of times unknowingly doing that. Like I said, even random motherfucker in the grocery store, you can still project something onto them depending on your expectation. That's why I would suggest, before proceeding along with actively shape-shifting another motherfucker, you take into mind everything that I said. As they are experiencing you, you are experiencing them, and vice versa, but they too are having their own puppeteering, shape-shifting experience. But it doesn't mean that that is going to affect you in a way where now you've been downgraded to just a puppet in their realm and they've been upgraded to master, or vice versa, because it goes both ways. So everyone is doing this, but a lot, say most motherfuckers, aren't aware. And if they even are aware that they're doing it, they're not aware that they're doing it on a daily basis. Like I said, motherfucker in the grocery store, you're constantly doing this and you can constantly change individuals. Now let's say you had, let's take it back to the boss again, you had a situation where your boss, the entire time you've been in the company, they've been a tyrant, they've been very strict, whatever, you don't really care for them. This is probably something that a lot of individuals deal with, right? They don't suspect or believe or think that they can change someone who they have a lot of history with. And that is where most individuals trip up in this process because of the history that's there. So for any type of level that you are dealing with an individual, let's say the boss, if you automatically one day just decided and expected to label them differently in your experience, what you would do with someone that already has a label in your experience, we're gonna want to now think about jars with labels on it. Okay, you're gonna peel off that label off the jar that was labeled, and now don't nobody know what the fuck was in there because you peeled off the label. So the jar is fresh, rinse the jar out, you know, pour the rest of whatever the fuck was in the jar down the sink. I don't know, whatever the fuck you're doing, okay? But you are going to view someone that you have a history with, you're going to view them differently. But first thing that you have to do is to peel the label off of whatever they were before. So tyrant boss, if the boss is sitting in a fucking jar and it's labeled tyrant, you're going to peel that off, you're gonna throw that motherfucker in the garbage, and now you're gonna see, what do I want this boss to be, even though there's a history, right? Because the first method, if you're just shape-shifting someone from a first perspective, if you go into it neutral, which ideally you would want to do even if you meet a new person from now on, you would ideally want to go into it as neutral. With someone that you have history with, you are going to erase the label that you gave them, and you're going to think for yourself, you're going to sense out for yourself how you want them to perform. Remember, they are the puppet, quote, in your universe, you are the master. So you can give someone a label and then they are going to mold and adapt and shape shift to the label you give them. So let's say you peel the tyrant label off, and then now you're like, chill motherfucker, right? Whatever. Now the boss's new label is chill motherfucker. They just chill. They come to work fucking high as shit and they don't give a fuck. They're like, yeah, whatever. They're always happy and laughing. That doesn't mean that this boss is now going to behave like that to the other co-workers, but in your experience, in your universe, that boss who was once a tyrant, now labeled as a chill motherfucker, is going to start presenting that chill motherfucker persona back to you. And it happens immediate. Everyone always talks about this in the manifesting community. Manifestation is instant, but a lot of times, especially with the build up, especially like a past story, a past label that you projected onto someone, be it knowingly or unknowingly, if you want to rewrite that script, what you must do is first peel off the label of everything that they were before. Go into it with a fresh set of eyes, and you want to think about, perhaps write down whatever the fuck works for you. Make some mental notes at least as how you would want this individual to perform for you, because they're going to perform as you expect them to. So if you now say, this dude, you know what, and think of a different name for them in your mind too. Like, let's say your boss, your nickname for them was the Tyrant. Now you're gonna change it, and every time your subconscious mind tries to put the word tyrant in your mind, in your psyche, in your sphere about that boss, you're gonna override it with chill motherfucker. Okay, so that's the first thing, because remember, the subconscious mind can sometimes take a little bit to conform to the idea because it's so used to doing something. You now have chill motherfucker. So every time the word tyrant comes into your mind, you're gonna override it. You're gonna say chill motherfucker. Okay, you're gonna continually do that, but you're also going to really expand upon the sensation and an interaction that you would have with this individual, the chill motherfucker, the boss, the new boss that you're creating. You're going to think of them in a way where you have a happy or chill interaction with them. And let's say whatever label you gave anyone, right? Because this is, you know, this could go for every motherfucker in your life. If you had a label about them before and you want to change it, you're going to remove that label and then you're going to put a new label on them. And then what that label entails is going to be something that you are going to sensationalize in your mind and your thoughts. You might want to write it down, whatever, because everyone's manifestation techniques are different. Some of you might just be able to sense the feeling with the word chill motherfucker, right? That's the trigger word. You're relaxed, you're relieved, right? This is no longer the tyrant that makes you feel anxious. This is someone who's chill and relaxed, makes you feel ease. So that is the new trigger word, because the old version of the boss that was labeled the tyrant is going to come up because it's just on repeat in your mind, right? Especially if it's someone you have history with. So you're gonna override it with the new label. So it's very important to think of a nickname or label or just a personality trait, right? Like chill motherfucker, whoever it is, you're going to get that key word, and that is a key word that you're gonna say to yourself in the override, in the manual override, when the system software is presenting you with something that you are already familiar with. We wipe in the browser history off of Google, ain't nothing here to see today. So anytime tyrant comes up, override, chill motherfucker. And that's gonna help embed it in your psyche, but also sensationalize, yeah, this motherfucker is chill, but what's gonna get you to feel a sense of relief around this individual, or an exuberant type of emotion, right? Because remember, you're creating them how you want them to be. So odds are you're gonna wanna have a pleasant interaction with this individual. How is that gonna make you feel? What would you guys be saying? And start viewing the person, the former tyrant, now chill motherfucker. Every time that word that you used to override, you want to maybe make a scene in your mind, or you want to make a sentence in your mind, or you want to just have something that your subconscious is going to recognize that's attached to a feeling of relief or happiness in regards to that person. Let's say what's going to trigger a relief or happiness sensation in your physical vessel. If we're talking about a former tyrant boss who is now a chill motherfucker boss, what might trigger relief when you think chill motherfucker, you might envision them handing you like a bonus check or a raise or something like that. And that's just going to help solidify what the new override word is. And I promise you, listen, I've done this before for like random people. I ain't nobody to them and they ain't nobody to me, just random motherfuckers. I've done that legit. I've seen a change the next day. The very next interaction I had with them, I see a change. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to see a big, humongous change right away, although you can, and that is possible, so don't rule that out. But a lot of times, for them to start conforming into your new label of how they are labeled in your experience, right? Who are they to you? Friend or foe? However you want to associate them. They are going to present to you versions of that individual who you are projecting onto them with that new story that causes pleasure in you. And guess what? Because the universe, everyone is a mirror, everything is all connected. So if you sense relief with this individual, or pleasure, or just happiness or silliness or whatever in regards to this individual, they're going to sense that too, and they're going to reflect it back to you. So they are going to start thinking of you in a more positive way. So that is if you want to rewrite someone. And like I said in the beginning of this video, the easiest way to not even get into a situation like that again, where you would even need to rewrite someone, is to first, if it's someone that you've heard about, anyone, or it could be, oh, all the checkout cashiers in this store are slow, whatever the fuck, right? And they're no one that you know or would see ever again, right? Whoever the fuck it is, okay? If you hear something, just don't take it in. Don't allow it to create a story for yourself. Remain neutral. Either that, or if you want to remain neutral and then when you interact with them, sense it out with your intuition, how you want to deal with them. Because maybe you'll meet a new motherfucker and you'll never want to see them again, and that's perfectly fine. Then you don't have to think about none of this. But if it's someone like, let's say a new coworker comes into the company and you're going to be seeing them on a regular basis, you're neutral. When you hear, oh, so-and-so is being transferred to this company, you're like, okay, whatever, I'll see how it goes with this person. I don't fucking know. You intuitively sense that they're going to be someone that you're just going to kind of want to be cordial with, but you're not going to really care to interact with, right? You might just put that as cordial coworker. We cool, ain't nothing crazy going on. They don't have an issue with me, I don't have an issue with them, we're cordial. Or you might get an intuitive inkling that, yo, I could be mad cool with this motherfucker, right? So then if you sense that and you wanted to project onto them, so that could come into experience, like, oh, this is a chill motherfucker, then you could put work BFF, right? You can label that person as that, okay? Whereas let's say someone you met and you're like, whatever, that would just be cordial coworker. But you wouldn't ideally want to put a negative spin on someone who you're gonna be, especially if it's someone you might be interacting with for a bit of time, a neighbor or like a professor or a classmate, or just someone who you might not be cool with and you might not have to see all the time, but you know that you'll see them again, so you just don't want any issues. You know what I mean? Like you're not really vibing with them, but you're like, they leave me alone, I leave them alone, it is what it is, right? Like you don't want to, even if you're kind of like to someone, right? You don't want to put a negative spin on it, okay? So I would say utilize your intuition with that, you know, because sometimes people aren't just on the same wavelength, right? It's like you might meet someone and they're very third dimensional and you're just like, okay, yeah, they're cool, they're chill, they ain't really doing nothing, but they're third dimensional. I you know, like you might want a little more substance. I'm just saying that's an example, right? Nothing wrong being third dimensional, but that's just one example, right? You meet someone, they're not doing anything bad, they're not like malicious, but you're not really jiving with their energy because you guys just aren't on the same wavelength. You'd be like, oh, that's my third dimensional friend, like, and not in a derogatory way, but you know what I mean? Like real G's know what the fuck I mean when we talking about dimensional consciousnesses. You ideally would not want to put negative label on anyone, because a lot of times, like, negative labels, let's say, they could even come from the ethers. So consciousness from the ethers, right? There might be a collective consciousness program, right? Sort of like a stereotype. Tarot card readers are like this, or someone who believes in astrology is this, or whatever, right? Whatever label you put on an individual, it might just be like a collective thing, right? And you could put that for any type of like genre of people, that there might be like something you've heard, okay? Now it's important in this case to as well release and neutralize any collective type of debris that's still in your psyche, because like I said, you could hear about a new coworker and that's an individual person coming to the company, but someone told you something about them, right? They might have said great things about them, they might have said negative things about them. So the same thing, someone says, oh, all tarot card readers are, and then it could be something negative, it could be something beneficial, right? That's still someone else's label on a collective, not a regular person, but even on a collective group. One ideally wants to go to neutral, back to neutral, because whatever they hear about anyone else that doesn't come from them is not real. It's a collective thought process, right? And that works in terms of like personal individuals, like I said, or like a collective group of individuals. Do you see what I'm saying? Something in this, something like an example for this, which I have no idea why this just came to me, but an example on a collective issue. And again, because we having a smooth sailing ride, right? We We ain't fucking with no one, ain't no one fucking with us, right? We just meandering the fuck along and we minding our fucking business. But the hidden one is, even with the collective, one can do shape shifting with them as well, because remember, they're projecting, you are projecting, everyone is projecting their belief systems and programming and labels on everyone else. So an example that I just thought of, if you've ever seen this documentary Wild Country, it was on Netflix, I don't know if it still is, but it's about Osho and his commune, right? And not to get into the whole thing, but it's like the story of Osho. And so he had this, I think it was in Oregon, however you say Oregon, I don't know how fuck you say, I don't care. You know, hooked on phonics. He was in Oregon and he had his commune there, and they were basically people who were into spirituality and Osho's teachings, and there was like controversial shit going on there, right? Let's just say. And this commune was right next to a group of people who were more in terms of like, they lived there their whole lives. They were simple people. They weren't really into like dancing and wearing different Osho, I think they had with the orange and red and purple outfits, right? That was more like a flamboyant lifestyle, and some of the healing methods that Osho would teach were a little controversial because violence and sex and whatever. So these type of individuals, to that perspective, because remember, everyone is shape-shifting everyone, like I said in the beginning, those individuals were more like, I guess, stereotypically straight-laced that lived in Oregon, in the town next to where the commune was. They were like, yo, what the fuck is this? Like, these motherfuckers are dancing around in the street. They were like, what? Like, because they'd never seen that, because they were more just kind of cut and dry, not into elaborate things in the physical realm. And then Osho had, I think, like 90 something Rolls Royces or something. So I mean, you can just imagine like the difference. But as this an example in the collective, why you would not want to even put a label on a group of people, even if you met one individual from that group and your experience wasn't negative, that doesn't mean everyone from that group is negative, right? Just like you could go out with one zodiac sign and be like, hell fuck no, motherfucker, hell fuck no. And then, you know what I mean, then you go out with another one of that zodiac sign, you're like, oh, they're totally different, right? Like, because, you know, everyone's evolving consciousness. Why do we attract certain types of individuals, blah blah blah. Any type of group of people that can be labeled, right, with Osho, I don't know what the fuck, I mean, I want to say, what was he doing over there? I don't know. Motherfuckers were calling it a cult, okay? I don't think that's what it was. I don't know the technical definition, but I don't think it was a cult. I think it was just a group of motherfuckers that went to the same thing. And then you have the straight-laced individuals from the town in Oregon, and they're like, we've heard about these type of people, you know what I mean? And then probably like the Osho and the commune people are like, oh, we've heard about these type of people. And there was a big clash during Osho's years in Oregon, okay? Or Osho's years in Oregon, and yeah, there was a big clash. So then these two groups are kind of at war with each other, and it's a really interesting, it's like a docu-series. I forget how many episodes, but it's so good. I feel like one of you might want to watch that, called Wild Country. So that's just the example that I'm telling here about individuals who, even if they're not necessarily produced with like one person to put a label on, it also goes on collectively as an energy. But let's say, had the individuals I talked about in Wild Country, had they not had any projections, or their projections were neutral, or their projections were just like, whatever, they're new guys in town, I don't know what the fuck they're doing, but they ain't bothering us, we ain't bothering them, right? There's a whole different perspective. Or like, oh, these guys lived here their whole lives and they're not as flamboyant and rowdy as us, and they must be this particular way, right? Because there was a collective about a group of people. So that's what goes on as well, not just in a sensation where you would have an individual or individuals that are presented to you like, oh, new boss is getting transfers from this company and he is XYZ ABC. It can still be like already a collective conscious paradigm about any group of people, any astrological sign, any type of residents of a particular area or newcomers to that area, like any type of issue, any type of thing that can cause separation and division. Those are already conscious programs going on. So it's important when you're molding and bending and shape-shifting people, individuals in your life too, as well as like if you sense you want to mold and bend and shape-shift like a type of collective group in your mind, right? Like let's say, again, I'll use a very light example. You went out with XYZ zodiac sign. Oh, hell no, never again. So you labeled all of them, all the ones who had that same sun sign, right? You labeled just everyone in there because of that one experience. No, you'd want to ideally wipe a thought process away, even if it pertains to an entire collective, okay? You just want to be everywhere true neutral. You have neutrality within you, so you have a smooth sailing motherfucking experience. And with the collective molding, you would just do this, you do the same technique. So let's say we use the Osho crowd, and then we'll use the organ motherfuckers, I'm gonna call them that, the Oshos and the organs. You would just take a look at that collective, right? Let's say, for example, the Oshos might, just to label them as, instead of like the, you know, the uptight organs, they'd be like, they're just chill or whatever. I'm gonna keep saying chill because I don't know, I don't want to get too specific, but whatever you feel like you would want to label someone. And the Oregonians could have just labeled them as, look at these hippie type individuals, but you know what, they're chill, they're laid back, they ain't, like, you would just make a different name, and then you would take a different type of sensation in that would have you feel relief or pleasure in regards to, like, let's say now that group instead of just one individual, but it would come as well from your trigger word. So let's say we call the Oshos the cool motherfuckers instead of like the Oshos that came in and, you know, we're doing crazy rituals or whatever, singing and dancing. Okay, we're gonna rename them, and that's gonna be able to help us produce something positive or of relief. And then every time you encounter the Oshos, who are now the chill motherfuckers, you would have a more and more chill experience rather than thinking them as someone who is so different from you and like, what are they doing, why are they here? Yeah, so I don't know if that was all over the place, but I mean, fuck it, that's how we roll. Thank you for joining us on this wonderful stroll. I am Oculus, the alien next door. We will chit chat again soon.